I want to recognize a couple of staff members that we have with us today. We have Kim Ringler. She is our club's coordinator. Hi, Kim. And then we also have Leanne Williams, and Leanne is our new assistant director of clubs. And so Leanne just started last week, so she is onboarding right now and eager to meet with many of you as a contact for your clubs. Natalie is also joining us, but she is sick this evening, and so we are going to allow her to keep her microphone and camera off so that she feels better. Bad case of bronchitis. So Natalie, we wish you well, wish you could see your face, but she's only going to watch this in case I mess up with some of the details. So if we need her to come and help us, I'm going to call on her, but otherwise you've got me tonight. So I am again excited to be with you and excited to provide you some updates about where we're going with our Alumni Clubs program. So let me go ahead and share my screen about what we have for some updates. None of this should be too new to you, because I know that you all received an email with lots of links about updates and reminders for year-end things and for updated forms going into 22-23. So we're going to review some of that. And again, when we put that out there, we want to make sure that we always take time to answer any questions that you have. Already did our introduction, so let's go through our agenda this evening. We're going to remind on our purpose and mission statements for our alumni clubs. We're going to go through a few reminders for year end. We just completed a fantastic year with 21-22, so we've got a few year-end housekeeping things to cover. We have several updates for 22-23, different and updated agreements, guiding principles, and a few forms. I'll show you also where those are located online so you know where to access those. We are going to be talking briefly about our updated club recognition program. Going to give you a sneak peek of our engagement scoring and what that is and why we're using that here with Purdue for Life. We'll take time for questions, and we'll also do some save the dates of important things that are coming up. So let's jump right in. So the purpose of our alumni clubs, and you're going to see this reflected also on the new guiding principles. The context behind this is our merge into the Purdue for Life Foundation. So all of you have been operating on a set of bylaws that we've now updated with guiding principles. We'll touch on that in just a little bit. But part of that is making sure that we're updating our language and keeping that consistent across all of our clubs and our networks, and also our college alumni boards. So part of that is making sure that everybody is crystal clear on where we are with our mission now. And the mission of our clubs is to advance the mission of Purdue University in partnership with Purdue for Life Foundation to inspire the well-being and the lives and global communities of all Purdue alumni, students, and friends, while advancing Purdue through deepening sense of value experienced in continued association with our university. That's a lot to say, and that is our formal mission. But basically what we do is Purdue for Life Foundation works in partnership with you and alumni clubs to help our alumni friends and fans to stay connected, get involved, and give back. And you do that with us in partnership every day. So thank you again for everything that you do. You'll see in those guiding principles, like I mentioned, that all of our language is now reflective of this, the second bullet point in bold typeface, so that we really do level set and saying, you know, we're partners in this work of advancing Purdue. We're all here because we love Purdue and we want to see it advance on all levels. A few reminders that we have to get in for the end of 21-22. Your alumni club engagement report is due by this Friday. If you're not sure where to find that, it is in the link that Natalie sent out. And then post this meeting, we will send out this slide deck with live links. So you can also go back through these slides and click on any of these links to submit your reports. We also have the club's quarterly financial report, their final one due for the 21-22 fiscal year. That's also due this Friday. That link is live. And just a reminder, and I always put this out there, Natalie puts this out there because I know we have some new club leaders that are joining us tonight. All of those club forms can be found at this link below. That's going to give you all the resources that you need to run the club, to make sure that you have all the forms that you need. So lots of updates are going in there, and that's a great link to bookmark on your browser. For the next year coming up for 22-23, we've got some new items for you. The first of that being the new guiding principles. So guidelines versus bylaws, what's the difference? Well, we had some discussion about that, and the term bylaws is usually typically referred to 501c3 organizations that have their own governing status. And we thought that it was more appropriate to make sure that we were standardizing our language across all of our clubs, our networks, and again, our college alumni boards. So instead of saying bylaws, which really connotates something like a more of a legal obligation, we changed that to guiding principles. So what we've prepared, and I'll show you a link of where you can find this later, is sample language for you to update. This has language referencing the Purdue for Life Foundation as opposed to Purdue Alumni Association, since all of our language is now reflective of the Purdue for Life Foundation and that our partnership exists with Purdue for Life Foundation. We always get the question, well, what about the Purdue Alumni Association? Well, absolutely, it is still alive and well. Purdue Alumni Association now has an agreement with the Purdue for Life Foundation. So we're still selling memberships, both annual and life memberships, and we still work hand in hand with the board of the Purdue Alumni Association. They outsource all of the programming and engagement to now the Purdue for Life Foundation. So we, like I said, we are hand in hand working with the Purdue Alumni Association, but part of that legal agreement with the merge is to make sure that we're updating our language, and that extends to you as club leaders as well. So we do have that new language for you to fill in, some of the differentiation between your club and another club. There's some leeway there, but please make sure you're taking that language, updating those, and then getting those back to us. Some other new items for 22-23 are the club agreements. These are standard. They've just been updated with the language too. We've always had this in the club handbook before, the statement of integrity, the volunteer code of conduct and expectations. To make this a little bit easier this year, instead of going through the entire handbook, what we're going to do is we're going to send all of those in a DocuSign packet. So all you have to do is sign off on them, and then we have those for our records. Second bullet point here is just a reminder on the Purdue for Life email and registration system. This is part of our club agreement. So what we are doing, and I know that there's been some highs and lows with using a new registration system. We are aware of those pain points and working through them. We have a brand new events software. Some of you have been using that. It looks fantastic. Hopefully it's a better user experience for you, and ultimately a better user experience for our alumni. And one of the things that we want to make sure of and that we're clear is that we do expect all of our clubs and our networks, and really now any entity on campus who's putting on an event, all goes through the same registration system. And the reason for that, just to reiterate, is because if we're all using one system, we're able to collect that data and we're able to have better contact information for all of our alumni friends and fans. We use that information to help us to decide what kinds of programming and outreach and marketing we need to do in the future. But if everybody's using disparate systems and they're not talking to each other, then we can't be as efficient in making sure that we're connecting people back to Purdue and ultimately advancing Purdue. So that is the reason for this new registration system and making sure everything is coordinated. The third bullet point here is that we have a new resource for you, and that is our online auction software and campaign platforms. So many of you have run silent auctions as a part of raising money for your club scholarships. That is fantastic, and we know that that works really well. We actually are paying for this kind of software internally, and we want to make that available to you. Again, it's going to link with the registration system, so we're gathering that data when someone makes a purchase on those online auctions. So this is really a great resource. You will not have to buy or use any kind of outside platform in the future. You'll be able to use ours. Again, we're paying for that software anyway. We want to make that available for all of our clubs. Now, as with anything, we have to provide you some training so you know exactly what it is that you're using and making that a better user experience for you when you want to have those silent auctions. So there will be a training that will be scheduled. We'll go through all the capabilities of this online auction software, go through the training, make sure that you feel comfortable with it and can use that in your plans for this year and engaging. So more details to come for that. Few more items for updates. Our engagement funds agreement. So why is the name changing? You've heard about dues sharing for years and years. The dues sharing has been a way for us to collect those membership dollars through annual and life memberships with the Purdue Alumni Association. And we save a portion of that every year to give out to the clubs. We're going to continue to do that. But the reason why we're looking at changing the name on this is that we don't want the funding to only be linked to membership. We want to also think about how can we help you with greater engagement beyond memberships. So if your club is doing some great things to engage the alumni and the population there, we want to help fund that beyond just the membership dollars. Our membership numbers are down. That's because of COVID. They're down because when we merged over, we hadn't been running as many of those active membership campaigns, but we still have dollars that we want to get out to the clubs. And we want to make sure that we're providing those funds to you so that, again, you can be our hands and feet of Purdue out in your communities. So it's just a different way of looking at that funding. No changes for this coming year. We're running the numbers and making sure that you're still provided with those dues sharing dollars. We're just calling it something different, and now we're calling it engagement funds. One of the things that's helping us to determine that for the future, and this is 23, 24 and beyond, is looking at all of that data that we are collecting through our new system that is integrated across campus, and using that to help us determine where we're moving the needle in engagement. And that's what we call our engagement score. So I'm going to give you a very small sneak peek at the engagement score. This is something that we've been building in conjunction with the Purdue Alumni Association. Their group, they've got an advising group that we work with on how are we determining if someone is engaged. Where are they giving their time, their talent, their treasure? Are they coming to events? All of that's going to feed into giving us a score of how we're engaging alumni in your specific area. Same is true for our colleges. Are the colleges engaging their alumni? And so I want to go through some of the pieces that are going to be used in creating this engagement score. It is not fully baked, and we know that we want to get this right before we change anything in relation to it. So this year, our 22-23 year is all about working out the kinks. We're going to be working through this and looking and seeing how are we going to use this engagement score to make smart decisions for engagement in the future. And we want to bring you along in that journey and let you know what's working and let you know what's not working, and maybe ask a few of you to help us in testing some of these things. But it will not affect your funding for this coming year. We are still going to be using those due sharing dollars to make sure that you are being able to engage the alumni, friends, and fans in your own communities. The next piece is our quarterly financial reports. Those are not really different than what we've been requiring of you each year. I've got an example to show you of where you can file those quarterly financial reports. This is just a good check and balance, as we would do with any volunteer club, making sure that those dollars that are coming in are being used for engagement events and helping to engage the folks there in your area. So that's part of just demonstrating how those funds are being used. And then I mentioned this earlier, but as a way to make this easy so you know, hey, what all do I need to sign off on? We will be putting together all of that into a packet for DocuSign and sending that over to you the week of July 18th for the presidents of each of the club to sign and then get back to us. Just a few more items, and then we're going to move it out to showing you some examples of what I've mentioned, and then also opening it up to questions. Alumni club rosters. This is with your new officers and things that took effect most likely at the beginning of July. Those need to be turned in by this Friday as well. So just a reminder to submit those so we know exactly who to contact now in terms of leadership, so that we know also that that person is to receive these agreements and guiding principles. It helps us to stay in contact. And then all of those new club leaders will be getting some introductions with Natalie and with Leanne and with Kim, so they know exactly what they need and who they can go to for questions. So please get those in by this Friday. And then finally, we've got an updated club recognition program. So the club recognition program, as you know, is our way of recognizing you for all the work that you do to engage those alumni, friends, and fans in your communities. And one of the ways that we do that is to have these different levels of bronze, silver, and gold. Well, we're providing a few updates to that, just a little sneak peek. This will be rolling out in August, but we know that we're asking a lot of you. We always ask a lot of our volunteers, and we want to make sure that we're providing some incentives for you along the way beyond just the gold P. And so we're getting creative and thinking about how can we do that for you. So just a note to come, we're thinking about what is some Purdue gear that we could get out to you. Can we get you as leaders some more branded Purdue and Purdue for Life branded with your club logos? We're trying to explore some ideas of how to recognize you more for the work that you do to help advance Purdue. And then we are looking forward to seeing many of you in person with all the work that you've done for 21-22 and recognizing you at the Alumni Leaders and Volunteerism Conference that is at the end of the month on July 28th and 29th. If you haven't signed up for that and you are able to join us in person, please go to purdueforlife.org and register for that. We would love to see you here on campus. And we know that's not available to everyone to make it all the way back to West Lafayette. So we will be recording all of those main session speakers and making those sessions available to you online afterwards. And we will also be letting you know if you did receive that bronze, silver, or gold status prior to the Alumni Leaders and Volunteerism Conference. That's just when we're going to be recognizing those who are joining us in person. All right, moving on to a few save the dates and mark your calendars. So what we have found is that we want to stay in closer contact with each of you as our club volunteer leaders. This is something that I'm committed to as VP of Engagement. It's something that Matt Folk, our CEO and president, is committed to. And it's always been something that Natalie, Kim, and now Leanne are also committed to. So we are doing quarterly forums with each of you for our leadership where we can provide you some updates just like tonight and go through any questions that you might have. We live this every day, but you live it in a different way every day. And what we need to make sure of is that we're meeting the expectations of both. And so that we're providing time on the calendar for us to get together, to answer questions, and go through examples of how we are, again, in partnership advancing Purdue. So make sure you mark your calendars for October 12th, January 11th, and April 12th. Matt will be joining us on one of those. We're looking to look at his schedule, and we're interested in taking input from you. If there are certain things that you want us to be planning for on those quarterly forums, let us know, because then we can build an agenda based off of the questions, concerns, and ideas that you have. So keep in contact with Natalie and Kim and now Leanne. Let them know what you want to see during these quarterly forums, because it's not just us reporting out what's important to us. We want to address things that are important to you too. We also have a Purdue Day of Service coming up this October. This will be our second Purdue Day of Service. Last year, we gathered also in October to plant hundreds of trees around campus. And it was a great way to get volunteers to come back to campus. Well, we know that volunteerism is something that's important to you too, and something that you do in your own community. So we will be creating, as part of the updated recognition program, some ideas to get volunteerism happening more in your communities. And that would be happening either on the same day or around the same day. Again, it fulfills that volunteer requirement that we ask each of our alumni clubs to participate in. So more details to come on that. And we also know that football season is upon us. And so many of you do fantastic jobs of putting on these game watches to gather alumni in your communities. And so we would love to get those locations from you as soon as possible. Again, we like to keep those usually at the same location because it's easier for us to help promote that for you. So get those game watch locations in by Friday, the 26th of August. So you've got a little bit of time to nail some things down. The first game is against Penn State, and that's going to be Thursday, September 1st. So that first email, so as many of you know, and some of you as new club leaders, we send an email every week out to everyone to let them know that there are game watches happening all across the country. And so that email goes out typically right before the game. So the first email is going to be going out on Monday, August 29th, and that will advertise all of the different states with all of the different game watch locations. We've also made this really easy to find on our website so that if someone is coming to PurdueForLife.org, they're going to see game watches on several different pieces of the website, and it links to the page where we advertise all of this. Where can they go for the game watch? How can they connect with alumni in their area to watch a game together? So we're trying to make that more prevalent and more recognizable. It'll also go out on footers of some other emails that are going out to all alumni, like our lifetime learning. We can put the game watches in there, just several different places that hit all alumni. We want to make them aware of the game watches that are happening. And then I mentioned a couple of these new trainings, but let me go through the list. So this is some things that, or these are some things that we have noticed we need to do some deeper dives into to go through some more details. One is the enhancing the email engagement. How do we make sure that we are reaching all of the alumni in your area? So there's going to be a training on that, some session information that we'll be sharing. I mentioned this one already, the online auction software. We're going to go through a deep dive on how to use that software, how to utilize it best, how to promote it best. So we'll go through that training as you get ready to do some of your auctions for scholarships. We have the Purdue for Life Foundation Engagement Series. This is a thing that Natalie has put together, and Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a way for you to find out more about what's happening across all of engagement. So we've got 6 main program areas of engagement. Some of you have seen these in your event boxes that have gotten mailed to you. It's the 6 Ways to Engage brochure. But this is a way for those who come to those club events, which is often, a first touch that somebody has back with Purdue is coming to an event that you put on. And so we want to make sure that they're introduced to other ways that they can continue to engage with their time, with their talent, with their treasure, or just through general learning. And so we have a lot of different programs that we want to share, and we want to make everybody as aware of as possible of the different pathways, the different pillars of engagement, because again, we view you as our club leaders as our ambassadors in those communities. So the more we can educate you about ways that alumni, friends, and fans can engage with us, then you can make those recommendations right alongside us and help them connect back to Purdue. So that series will help you get a better deep dive into everything that we're doing within Purdue for Life. And then finally, we will have a new volunteer training. This is for all of our new alumni club leaders. And we will go through all the specifics of, again, the different forms where you can find resources, and ultimately how we can better help you to serve alumni to help advance Purdue. Before we jump into questions, I'm going to stop sharing this screen because I want to share briefly where we can go to find all of these forms, and then give you a snapshot about what the engagement score is going to look like. So bear with me as I share my next screen here. Okay, so can somebody tell me, are you seeing the engagement score with Purdue Pete?
No, not yet.
Okay, there might be a little bit of a delay here. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Partially.
Okay.
Partially. It looks like it's only 3/4 of the slide.
Jillian, you
Okay.
just need to bring down the.
Yeah, it's pretty big, so I'm going to scroll down through it. So the engagement score is something that we have been working on for months now. When we knew that we were going to be merging into the Purdue for Life Foundation, we started asking the question, how are we really measuring whether or not someone is engaging with Purdue? And so we looked for some best practices from CASE, and that's the Council for Advancement and Support of Education. It's kind of like the best, good housekeeping, best seal of approval. It's who we go to for our best practices in advancement. So advancement in philanthropy within higher education, we go to CASE. CASE puts on conferences, giving us best practices across all of higher ed. And the work that they've done and the research that they've done is really breaking engagement into 4 different modes, because we know that some people will choose to engage by giving. So philanthropy and giving will always be a measure of that. But it's actually much bigger than just giving. And that's where you all know this, because you're giving of your time, which is sometimes a much more valuable resource than finances at times. And so we know that volunteerism is another indicator of engagement. You'll see here, and hopefully you can see all 4 quadrants right now as I've scrolled down. Philanthropy is part of the score. Volunteerism is part of the score. Experiences or experiential is part of the score. That's what you help us do. You put on events to help us engage alumni, friends, and fans. We put on events to help us engage alumni, friends, and fans. It's events that you do in your communities. It's also events that we do, like the Boilermaker Ball, or like our Naples event, or our Purdue Women's Conference. So anytime somebody partakes in an experience, including being a student at Purdue, an undergrad, a graduate student, taking a course through Purdue Online or Purdue Global, any kind of experience that someone has with Purdue is going to count towards their experience score. And then finally, communications. What are the pieces that people are actually opening? When a lot of emails come from Purdue, what are the ones that matter? What are the ones that you're opening and that you're interested in taking that next step on? This would include the new digital Purdue alumnus. This would include any emails that promote your events that you do at a club level. It would be emails that you open that open and promote things like the Alumni Leaders Conference or the Purdue Women's Conference. So that communication and what people are opening, we're also using to understand how people are engaging with us. The interesting thing about the new engagement score is that every single person that interacts with us now is going to have an engagement score, so that when we open this up, and today, like I said, it's Purdue Pete is who we're looking at. We can see how Purdue Pete is engaging with Purdue. It doesn't look like he's doing a whole lot, which we know is not true, because of course he's amazing and he is everywhere. But according to this sample score that we're looking at, it looks like Pete is coming to our events, but he's not doing much else. So when I look at this, I might think, how could I engage Pete even more? Is Pete getting a solicitation for Purdue Day of Giving? Could Pete be interested in being a mentor or a volunteer club leader? That's another way we could engage him. And is he even getting our emails? Because it looks like it's only getting to like 10% up here. So how do we make sure that we have updated contact information for Pete so that he's actually receiving the information that we're promoting? He's obviously coming to some events, as you can see down here, but he's not engaged much other than that. So this helps give us a snapshot of how someone individually is engaging. We collect all of these engagement scores and then put them together based off zip codes and geographic regions, just like how we dictate who your club emails go to based off the zip codes that are around you and based off of how many members are living in your area to help give you funds. We're going to use the engagement score for the same thing, but we're hopefully going to have a lot more information about the alumni that are living in and around and how they're engaging collectively, so that we see if there's not a whole lot of events going on in that area. Maybe we can talk about how we can create more events for that area, or are there enough volunteer opportunities for that specific location? Are people engaged in Day of Giving and club scholarships? If not, how can we help with that? And then communications. Are the people actually getting the emails that we work so hard on? Do we have updated contact information? And are they opening them? And if not, why? How can we reach them better? So again, the point to all of this data collection and making sure that everyone is using the same system across the university and across our clubs is to see that we have better analytics on how we can make engagement easier for our alumni, friends, and fans. So there's so much more to come on the engagement score, but we have enlisted the help of so many of our volunteers in creating this engagement score, so many of our staff, and just a big shout out for, I don't know who's all online with us tonight, but anybody from the Purdue Alumni Association. We have a great group of folks that are helping us to make sure that we're engaging all alumni, not just donors. And so that's something that we believe that alumni friends and fans can make a difference with all of their resources, time and talent included. And so that engagement score is really helpful to us, and a big shout out to the Alumni Association for helping to make this possible. Let me stop sharing here and click on just a quick example here of our quarterly financial report. So just a quick, many of you as club leaders who have done this for a long time, you know where to go, but we will be giving you the links so that you can see all of these reports that you need to do, how you submit those. Natalie, you've done a fantastic job of making sure that we can access all of this online in one centralized place. So again, we're trying to accept these documents in as many forms as we can and make this easier for you to get us the information that we need. So that being said, I'm going to come back with you and entertain some questions. I've noticed that Fred has his hand up. So Fred, I will take your question first. How can I help you? You want to come off mute? Okay, well, we will wait and see if Fred has his question later. Kim, can you help me out with the chat?
Am I unmuted now?
Oh, there you go. Yep, we'll take it.
Okay.
What kind of questions?
So Natalie did a very good job of pulling some things together, and she shared the draft of the agreement, which I can't legally sign because half of I think you've seen my comments. They've been passed on to you. There are legal issues with working with Girl Scouts where we cannot take attendance there. We do 2 to 3 events with admissions, and the provost people, we sign agreements that we won't share the stuff with other people like you. And because we're dealing with new students and either college fairs or senior send-offs, and we do about 3 to 4 events like that. The Girl Scout ones is where we do our STEM events, and that engages half the county, which is rural, which normally doesn't get engaged with the clubs. And we have people who attend, but we're not legally allowed to share the attendance with that. We can give you numbers because it ranges anywhere from 7-year-olds to 18-year-olds. So
Sure.
Those type of things don't fit. I don't think the agreement covers that. We have had significant issues with email this year. Even our board was not getting the emails. Somehow our list got lost. And I've twice worked with PAA on getting those lists corrected by going through because our region, we cross over so many, but we don't share zip codes. Across the street from me, people have Indianapolis addresses. They live in Hendricks County. So we lost some board members at the end of the year because of that. We had too light of attendance at our annual meeting because people asked afterwards, why didn't it go? Those are our headwinds we face, and it's extreme failures in the IT systems that have been released. So I cannot believe it unless I'm shown that they actually work. We lost our synergy in the region. I'm 1 mile from Indianapolis, where my house is. When we have our game watches, we were pulling people from Western Indianapolis because we were the closest location. We don't get that anymore. So we've lost all that linkage. I think we've had a big stone to try to pull along to get more people engaged.
That's good feedback, Fred, and we want to look at that. I mean, we need to address that. It doesn't make any sense if we're not sending out I lived on County Line Road growing up, right? So we're on we're right by 3 different counties. And if I didn't get information to the county that I, primarily go to, even though I'm on the line, that doesn't make any sense. So let's see what we can do on that. I'm taking a note on it right now to see how we might be able to solve that in the future.
Okay, so it's gone on for 3 years and it's gotten progressively worse. We're also
Okay.
having PAA events, Purdue for Life events in the regions being announced and scheduled over planned activities, over activities that clubs have, like in Indianapolis and Fort Wayne have scheduled at the same time at the same location.
Yeah.
We are not working with as a team with, Purdue for Life is not working as a team with the clubs. And we used to have a regional group, and Jimmy Cox did an excellent job of setting it up, and others to try to carry it on. But that had all the regional clubs meeting at least quarterly. And we had synergy. We had an online, I think we had a Google spreadsheet where we shared our plans. So everybody knew where everything was going and we're able to support each other. Now I met them at things like when we had a zoo event last June, Henry's County and Indianapolis attended. The other regional clubs didn't. It was good. I mean, your office got us involved quick enough that we could get there, and a couple of us were available. But we do, like I said, we do things that the systems we've got and the club agreement that's out there doesn't cover or support, which gets the engagement of Purdue in our counties. And that's all I'm asking is fix it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And we are also talking with athletics. I know that there were some issues with Victory Field that we were upset about too. Not a whole lot of communication or coordination, even though we were trying to do that internally. So we're aware of that. We know that that needs fixed. And we do want to make more coordinated efforts because we don't want to be stepping on the work that you all are doing. You worked too hard for that as a volunteer for us to put an event right on top of it. So we get that, apologize for that, and we're going to try to make it better.
If it wasn't for the support that Natalie and Kim give us, we wouldn't exist.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Fred. I appreciate it. I see another hand of an old board member friend, Bob Feldmeier. Bob, how are you?
I'm fine, Julian. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you.
I actually had two things. One is echoing what Fred was talking about on not getting emails. I had personally had that problem. I had signed up for Purdue for Life, quite some time ago on Purdue Connect and checked off a couple different dozen boxes of emails. I was receiving none of it. And there's an email that my wife and I share. She was getting the stuff in there, but in my personal email, nothing was coming through. I worked with Natalie and Kim on it, and it took quite a while, but it did finally happen. But I know two other people in our local alumni club that are leadership positions that were also not getting those emails. So there is something broken somewhere in the system. But then the other question I had, with your event system, I really like it, for putting in events and you guys sending out emails, but who do those emails go to? Do they go just to Purdue Alumni Association members, those that are paying their dues, or does it go to everybody that you have an email address for?
Yeah, it depends. And we actually have the ability to do both or either. With the merge, one of the things that we've committed to is reaching all alumni, friends, and fans when we can. So not just members, because we believe that if we can engage them, they might have a better propensity to become a member in the future. So for the club event specifically, we're looking at those zip codes and trying to pull alumni, friends, fans, members into that email based off the geographic location or surrounding. So we know that that's not perfect either. We are working on trying to make that not just email, but that we're sending out more updates about, hey, come to this webpage, see what's happening there, so that we're reaching people on social, reaching people on the website and through emails. So there are ways that we can divide that down when needed, but we're trying for the broad approach to try to get as many there as possible.
Yeah, for most of the events, we would appreciate the broad approach. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you explain when you say like zip codes in the area? I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I know other groups are in smaller areas that overlap more so. So can you explain, like in the Bay Area, is it a broader reach since, again, we are having issues where people are not receiving these emails? Or is it a smaller zip code profile that you guys are using?
That's a good question, Gretchen, and I'm not exactly sure how to answer that other than when we do have an email for that club that goes out, we will look at who is that club's geographic region based off the zip codes that we have in the system. So it is zip code, but if what I'm hearing is that zip code is not reaching all the people that it needs to reach, that's something we need to look into more.
And again, I'm not sure. I just know not everyone's receiving the emails at all. We
Right.
get it constantly.
Okay.
And they don't realize they're not receiving them. So I think that's the really complicated thing of you guys saying, well, we need to know who. And it's like, we can tell you the one-offs, but there's obviously a broader issue here.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Hi, Doug. I see you raising your hand. Love the flag behind you, by the way. Oh, we're not hearing you. Nope.
You hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Just follow up on a comment regarding emails. We sent out, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but we sent out a club communication email, and it was indicated that I'm rounding approximately 1,600 emails went out. But supposedly in our area, the addition of alumni and friends of Purdue, it's 4,800 people. Somehow those two just don't seem to reconcile each other. If there's really 4,800 within the geographic area on file with Purdue for Life, why only 1,600 emails going out? Yes, I do understand if you don't have an email on record, but can't be that many.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I will share, we did find one glitch and I think this is fixed now, but what we realized is that part of the poll for the system was only pulling those emails that had the last 4 digits. Sorry, not emails, but zip codes with the last 4 digits. Well, there are many, many, many addresses that are in our system that do not have those 4 digits. And so then we had to go back through the system, our IT folks, and make sure that when we were running those reports, that it wasn't excluding individuals who didn't have the last 4 digits. So it seems like a simple thing, but that was one of the ways that we discovered that it wasn't hitting as many people as it used to. So we're continuing to look into that and make sure that we can discover, hey, why are these people not getting in that poll? And that might be the case for the example that you mentioned, Doug, because 4,800 to 1,600, that's too big of a, just a few people fell off.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Hi, Michael. See your hand raised there?
Yeah, just to comment, the last 4-digit zip code issue came up 2 or 3 years ago with us on the previous email system. So now we've got a brand new system and maybe yet another brand new system. It seems like they changed again in May. So saying the problem existed 3 years ago with an old system doesn't get us to a solution for the current system.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We did switch systems, and that was in January of last year. And it was working okay. And then we discovered all of a sudden when we were running these reports, it had popped up again. So what we discovered is that somebody in our IT department had added that, and I don't think they realized the ramifications of it. So then we had to go and uncover all of the ways that was happening. So I didn't know that it had happened before on a previous system, but it did happen with us just a few months ago. All right, I'm trying to see if I've got other people raising their hand. Any other questions that I can answer for anyone? Got about 15 minutes left.
Jillian, we have some in the chat also.
Okay, okay.
This is Phil Burris. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I'm on with computer, but I'm also on the phone here. So anyway, I had a question. I'm trying to get an appeal for the Sarasota Club on the Purdue Day of Giving, and I've talked to several people who have said they would call me back, and I've received no reply. The issue is that the Purdue Day of Giving is supposed to be a one-day event, online event, and we're supposed to have a leaderboard. And then we, through that leaderboard, at the end of the day, award gifts for the most donations and the amount, the highest donors. And that's done, and it was done properly, it looked like, for the entire university. For example, Purdue Alumni Association received $3,000 for their leaderboard finish of whatever it was, 8th place. On the Day of Giving, Cleveland was first for the clubs, and they had 100, and this is in the number of donations, 106 donations, and they should have been awarded $2,250. Sarasota was second with 74 donations and should have been awarded $2,000. Clinton County was somewhere down in 5th or 7th or something. They had 26 donations and $350. I called about a week or two after the event was over and could receive no information on what the final leaderboard was for the clubs, even though all the other leaderboards were finalized. And I was told that it would be out at a later date. And as everybody knows here, it took until June the 30th to get the results out. They came out in this recent email. And in that email, it shows that Clinton County moved up to first place and that they had 126 donations instead of the 26 that was at the conclusion of that day. And I ask why, and they say, well, that's because they had mail-in or some other kinds of donations. We had no opportunity to make those mail-in donations or whatever they were. For example, we take donations and took donations through the month of April, May, and all those time periods. But they went into our treasurer and they were put into our scholarship fund, that they didn't go through Day of Giving. So I'm having problems understanding how these other donations of 100 donations came in late in order to put them in first place. And what it means to us is it knocked us down to third. So we lost $1,000 just in that, one calculation. And I've talked to everybody, and I was supposed to have word back today, actually Monday. They were supposed to call me back and let me know. And I've talked to people in the Day of Giving, and they all claim, yes, it was a one-day event. The other thing about it is that Clinton County advertised, I looked at their Facebook page to see how they promoted Day of Giving, because we were very active. We had probably 25 posts on Facebook, and we were calling people and using emails. We were engaged for the entire 24 hours. Clinton County had a posting on their Facebook page on April the 12th that said, we only have a few more days to make donations for the Day of Giving. Well, how did they give donations on April 12th? And then on the 27th, the Day of Giving, there was no mention. They didn't even advertise Day of Giving. So this is our whole question. So I'd like to hear the answer.
Yeah. Let me give a little bit of clarity, and I'm probably not going to be able to answer all of those questions. So there's a lot in there, and I want to make sure I'm giving you accurate information. You are correct that Purdue Day of Giving is a one-day event. But the thing that isn't correct is that we do take donations beyond online. We have people bringing in checks all day. And so one of the reasons why we don't have those leaderboard updates immediately is because we simply cannot process all of those gifts in one day. When we get checks brought in and when checks get mailed in for Purdue Day of Giving, which you're able to do, we can have that put in and recorded, but that's why you don't find out right away. So in the case of Clinton County, they bring in a stack of checks on Purdue Day of Giving. And I know that wouldn't be possible for you to drive those checks up from Sarasota. We get that. But if you are collecting those ahead of time, you can send those to us marked Purdue Day of Giving. So there's a bit of a misconception there that it's only online. It's not. It's also, we have donors coming in all day giving us checks. So we have a whole room set up just to process that for anything marked Purdue Day of Giving. So I think what we need to do on our end is be more clear about that up front with all of you, because the first thing that we really have to say is thank you. Thank you for doing all of that extra effort to help make an amazing Purdue Day of Giving for Sarasota. I mean, you deserve a round of applause for that. But what it tells me is that we need to be more clear about how those things are counted so that you know in the future when you're dedicating that much time and you're trying to get that leaderboard, we got to tell you ahead of time what counts and what doesn't. So I apologize for the miscommunication there, and we'll do a better job of next year saying, hey, yes, we do take checks, and if there are marks count for Purdue Day of Giving, we will do that.
Matt was
Jillian,
supposed to call me back this week. I still have one other thing to say about this. He was supposed to call me back, and according to what was said, is the leaderboard is still supposed to be gospel. And if Clinton County brings in those checks, they're supposed to be recorded on that leaderboard prior to that day ending.
Okay.
And
Well, like I said,
and we had no shot at that, like you said, and you didn't define it that way. If you go back and look at the definition on the Day of Giving, and it doesn't say anything about any checks coming in from anywhere. It says this is an online event, and it'll be online donations on that day of 27th only, and we can't start prior to that. So we couldn't have even mailed in checks and put on there Purdue Day of Giving because it couldn't be done prior to that.
okay.
Jillian,
I know Natalie's trying to come on and give a little bit of update. Natalie, go ahead and share.
excuse me. I did want to make a clarification in regards to Clinton County. The Clinton County endowment wasn't on the list of, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time putting my words together. Wasn't on the list that was there on Day of Giving. That their endowment had 100 gifts given to it, and their supportive fund had 26. And so the club got 126 gifts. That's how we reached that point. We looked at all of the clubs, and some clubs who have endowments and supportive funds, sometimes they can be separated out, and sometimes funds end up in a different than what's on the challenge board. And so we go through and we have to determine that also. So I just wanted to clarify that that's where Clinton County's 100 extra gifts came from. But we will work on, changing the language. We're going to have a big thing about PDOG in February or in March, into February, beginning of March, where we'll really dive into this. And I'll even have Clinton County share what they do. They work on that for months. And then we'll make it a little bit clearer, because we also had clubs from other states that mailed in checks too. So we'll work on that and improving that next year.
The other thing is that the Purdue Alumni Association won an award from the entire Day of Giving for $3,000 because they had 491 participants. In your email that you put out about this meeting, it shows, you said, thank you because we have 565 gifts and $94,000. The actual leaderboard showed 491 gifts and 88,162. And that's what you were measured by as your leaderboard, not by your total. So there's two different rules being followed here for PAA versus the clubs. And you're going to lose some volunteers from the Sarasota Club.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. It sounds like this could actually warrant a meeting in and of itself. It seems like there's a lot of questions about this, and we are not the experts on PDOG, which stands for the Purdue Day of Giving. So what I'd like to suggest is that we set up a meeting just to go over how Purdue Day of Giving is run and how we can make sure that we have accurate leaderboards and counts going forward. Because again, we do depend on this. And really, let's get to the heart of what we do with Purdue Day of Giving is everyone is trying to advance Purdue with this. It sounds like we're not doing it perfectly, but we all are here for the same reason. So Natalie, Kim, help me remember, let's put a meeting on the schedule just to go over Purdue Day of Giving. Thanks for letting us know about those issues. And I'm sorry that Matt hasn't called you back. He is in France right now, so he must have been traveling and not able to get back with you, but let's address this in a full-on meeting.
And I realized it could take him longer too. Thank you.
Sure thing. Okay, we only have about 5 minutes left. And I know, Sarah, you have had your hand up for quite some time. How can I help?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, Jillian. So glad to be here. My question is also fiscal, and it's with regard to the scholarships that are moving from the financial aid department in-house to us. I'm not comfortable with knowing and understanding what's going on with that. I have been referred to the website, which has information, but not the information I need. I need to know exactly when everything's going to happen. And there's a line that says the students will be contacted at the direction of the alumni of the local club. Well, I don't know who the students are. I don't contact anybody. And so I'm not comfortable with the situation. And I know it's in transition, but I just wanted to put this on your list of things that I'm concerned about, because that is one of the main reasons why the current officers in the San Antonio club are involved, because we want to be part of the scholarship. And we don't understand what our role is. We don't truly understand what our timeframes and deadlines are, because we don't want another year to go by that we aren't engaged in awarding scholarships. And so just for your radar, I need more information, and I'm not comfortable what's currently on the website. It doesn't answer my questions. You may not know the answers yet, but I'm just from the field sharing, needing more information. I want more information. And when that becomes available, I will gladly receive it.
Yes.
Great.
So Division of Financial Aid selected scholarships don't have any deadlines. We'll get out all the award winners to everybody next week. There's been a lot of shifts in who's been in rewarding people. And then I know in your case, Sarah, and this is really for anybody else who has a DFA selected scholarship, you know, we really have to rely on the Division of Financial Aid to move that through that process to get it to be club selected. And I know there's not going to be a problem with that, but I can't even give it. Unfortunately, I'm unable to give a timeline at this time because I'm at the mercy of the DFA. But once we have that, we will share that with you. I know there's another club that's looking at moving back to club selected also. And there are some changes that DFA is looking at doing that's going to affect some of the scholarships. And so once we have all that information, we'll be sharing it with everyone.
And thanks for sharing that, Sarah. And what we might see too, Natalie, is when we do get that information from DFA and we find out more about the process, that might be another session that we just put on and say, here, come tonight for all of your scholarship questions. We're going to go over all the information we got from DFA, just so that's out there. Sometimes it's easier to ask questions than for us just to post things online. We get that. So thanks for letting us know about that, and we'll communicate that once we get more information from DFA. Okay, do we have any other questions that I can address other than what's in the chat? Which, Kim, can you do me a favor and do a copy of all the chat so that if we didn't get to something that we can put together an email afterwards to address?
Yeah, and I've feverishly been trying to answer some, but yes, I will do that also.
I also captured those in some comments.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, if I don't see any other hands, we've got a minute to go. Again, let me just say thank you. Thank you for all the time that you've given us tonight, for the information that you shared so that we can help make this club's program stronger, again, so that we can advance Purdue together in partnership. So we've got some work cut out for us. We got some digging to do. First and foremost on zip codes, we're going to do some analysis with our data team and find out, hey, why aren't these zip codes pulling into some of our emails? It looks like that's a consistent issue across several of your communities. So we want to get that sorted out. We want to make sure that there is synergy for the clubs that are local to areas. Thanks for bringing that up, Fred. We want to look into more of that. We also want to look into Purdue Day of Giving and how we can be more clear with that information. And then also the scholarship. So we'll put those on the agenda in addition to the other trainings that we've got coming up, with some to be announced dates on training, like the online auction software, etc. So again, thanks for your time tonight. You've got my contact information. I believe you've got Natalie's, you've got Kim's, you will soon have Leanne's. We are here to help you, to help Purdue. Thank you again for everything that you do, and have a wonderful evening. Boiler up.